All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. And tonight is last week in Collapse. And I haven't done this in quite a while. It's really good to see all of you. This is a trip around the world. Hello, Kim and Looney. Thank you for moderating. Tommyist and hello, astrologer climate witness. It's great to see all of you. Bella, everybody, good. We got to get started. It's a busy, busy show. There's a lot happening around the world. And Collapse Chronicles. Hi, Sam. All right, there's a lot happening around the world. Alex is here. Great. Lots happening, more than just what's happening in the narcissistic, authoritarian, ridiculous, gaslighting, bullshit United States. So first, we're going to go through this, and there's a lot. So let's get started. Let me get started and pull everything up. Yeah, it is just really good to be here with all of you. Seriously, but this is a big, busy show. Big, busy show. All right, last week in Collapse, it is always on Reddit. In Reddit Collapse, it's a Substack. The person is not, there is no name of the author. Okay, now there's a lot of people that don't use their name. I'm not one of them. Sam is not one of them. Everybody knows who we are, and that's fine. Because when we started, how many years ago, it wasn't like you had to be scared of anything. And I'm still not scared of anything, even though I know that this administration in the United States is trying to tell us that we have to be, but we don't. Okay, we really don't. We have to fight. We have to be strong. I mean, you could be a little scared. There's, fascist police all over the place, but for the most part, we live our lives and we need to do what we need to do. I went to a meeting tonight. It was our local environmental group meeting. We talked about nanoplastics in the farms, in the farm, in the sludge. We talked about, I did, my piece was on data centers, and, you live your life as best as you can. So here we are last week in Collapse, and it's a heck of a newsletter. Take a deep breath. Here we go. All right. Youth protests in Nepal. Now, beautiful country, but the kids are protesting. They turned violent early last week when emotions over public corruption, sound familiar, unemployment, nepotism, and rising prices boiled over. In the ensuing riots, the parliament was burned. 22 people were killed, along with 400 injured across both sides. The homes of the prime minister and other political figures were burned, as well as the school and the police station. Social media and other websites were blocked. Soldiers were sent in to restore order. The prime minister's wife was burned alive inside her home. Their finance minister chased through the streets and assaulted, and the prime minister was forced into resignation. Now, it's really unclear as to who's really running the country or the mob of protesters, mostly Gen Z. And a number of protesters, now listen to this, they voted on Discord to appoint a former chief justice to be an interim leader, and it seems to be official enough to pass initial muster. Can you imagine that in the United States? Let's vote for who's going to run our country on Discord. But check that picture out. That is the symbolic, what this author says, symbolic acts of destruction will probably be commonplace as collapse accelerates. That's pretty messed up. So the first article, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't it. Here it was. Nepal. So this person got it from Bloomberg, and I want to get a little bit into this because, like I said, there are other places besides the United States and even the UK, Europe. The nation of Nepal, they really are experiencing experiencing a big political crisis since a decade-long civil war ended in 2006. And you know, really, what this was? They were, the Prime Minister, KP Sharma Oli, tried to ban social media. That's what this is all about. And the army assumed control hours later, deploying troops on the streets of the capital, Kathmandu. Kathmandu! Yeah, it's not like the song. The protests abated, but it wasn't clear how authorities plan to regain the trust of a restive population. So why are they protesting? They are protesting because of Facebook, X, and YouTube after the owners of Facebook, X, and YouTube, we don't have to say who they are, we all know, they failed to register with the authorities in Nepal, a move that would have given it more control over their output and forced them to follow certain rules and regulations. As a result, they were banned September 4th. It drove that country crazy. Social media is how the young Nepalese communicate with one another and get their information. Many saw the ban as a step too far by an unpopular government that's allowed a privileged elite to enrich itself at the expense of the wider population. Sorry, I got hair. Probably cat hair. But does it sound familiar? So they hurried to reverse the ban after the violence broke out, but the protests spread, and then the homes of the wealthy and influential families in Kathmandu set on fire. And much of the anger was directed at Nepo kids, the privileged and well-connected offspring of wealthy Nepalese who flaunt their gilded lifestyles on social media. Don Jr.? Anyone? So what's gone wrong? Poverty's declined, but still it affects a fifth of the population. Corruption is holding back investment and economic growth, which of course economic growth is everything. So basically, it's people are sick of this. They are sick of the elites. Just like in the United States, people are sick of the elites. But in the United States, this isn't happening. The only day it happened was January 6th. So what happens now that the prime minister is gone? Well, they swore in the new person, and they think that she's going to be a good one. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens with this, but it was pretty friggin' pretty cool to read about. Not cool, but it was interesting to read about Nepal because so much happening in a country that nobody talks about in the United States, right? No. And you see that the young people are rising up because they're sick of the bullshit. They are so sick of the elites. They are so sick of the wealthy people flaunting it when they are starving and they can't get jobs. Much of what I read about Nepal, they have to leave. They have to go to India. They have to go to China. They have to get jobs in other countries because the elites are they're not bringing in industry. And then they wanted to forget it. Take over social media, riot. Yeah, riot. And then this last week was the 19 Russian drones passed into Poland's airspace, including some from Belarus on their way to Ukrainian targets. Several of them were intercepted by Polish forces deep inside Poland. NATO's Article 4 was invoked. Now, I wanted to show you a video from before. I messed up what I had. Let's see if we could just see this. I don't know if you could hear it. No, you probably can. Here. This was what was happening. See, they ride their bikes all over. But she was burned alive. They burned the wife alive. So this is what it looked like. This is what it looks like when you do this. But it's a different kind of January 6th, isn't it? Yeah. All right. That was Nepal. I'm sorry that I didn't show you, but okay. And then Poland. And what I wanted to tell you what is Article 4, but I didn't finish because I did want to tell you about her. The Nepal's Chief Justice Sushila Karki. She is now the first female prime minister. And so we'll see what happens with her. She is 73, and they say she was like the unlikely choice of Gen Z protesters, but that she actually kind of, they liked her because she was all right. You know, they welcomed the announcement. They said that they're hopeful that maybe she could do it. So, hey, that's good. And yeah, the wife, Poppy, burned the wife. They repealed the ban, but they burned the wife. And these are the young people. Protester carries a firearm as demonstrators gather outside. So this is a big thing, you know, in a country that's not ours. Yep. Okay. I think I got that. All right. So what I want to do is now I wanted to go back to Poland. I wanted to talk about Article 4 a little bit. NATO's Article 4, because the Russians, you know, we were supposed to end. What did the Trump say? Oh, the war is going to end in 24 hours, right? Of course. Right. But it's not. And Poland is a NATO country, and Russia is playing games. And the United States is doing jack shit. Not that we want to be in war. We don't. So what is... God damn, how did I get that one mixed up? Okay. Article 4, what is it? Where is it? All right, so NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, commonly known as NATO. It's a defense alliance that the U.S., Canada, and several European countries created after World War II. Poland joined in 1999. And what it is they had their fighter jets shot down those Russian drones because they went in illegally. So it was pretty messed up. But I'm looking, okay, Article 4. So what is it? It allows member countries to bring their security concerns to the alliance for discussion. It states, the parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of the parties is threatened. I just don't understand why this is happening. Well, I do understand, because Putin is another maniac who wants power. Power corrupts. He is one of the richest men on the planet. And so he wants it all. He wants the grand Soviet Union back. And so we're watching this happen. And these people in these countries, they're independent. They don't want this. You think Ukraine does? They don't. They don't. So that's what the Article 4 is. And that was invoked for the first time since February 2022. 40,000 Polish troops are moving toward the borders that they share with Russia and Belarus. And Poland is borrowing more money, about 51 billion US, to finance new defense priorities, which is happening everywhere now. The global increase in military spending saw its largest increase from 2023 to 24 as a percent. Then the industry saw in over 35 years, right? 35 years, so something's happening. Everybody's fighting. A few days later, one Russian drone went over part of Romania, another one. So this is where the drones were. You can see the picture. I can make it a little bit bigger. And this is where the drones were going over. Here's Eastern Europe. A lot of us have humble beginnings in Eastern Europe. I think I've got Polish, Ukrainian, but I've also got European, Italian, Russian. A lot of us have a lot of it, a lot of, little specks of DNA from these places. But they're playing with fire. They are, but they want to. And meanwhile, we're building a ballroom for $200 million and taking down all those beautiful trees at the White House. Russian strikes on Tuesday killed 24 Ukrainian pensioners. This is disgusting, actually. Waiting in pension collection line in a Donbass village. Can you imagine? These people didn't ask for this. They're waiting in line. It's obvious I'm not just a news reader, caster. I mean, I'm opinionating because it's disgusting. You go to get your money and you get blown up because of a maniac. And we know who the three big maniacs are in this world. I don't have to say it. Thursday, strikes against Sumi and other locations killed one. Sweden, they pledged 7.5 billion United States dollars for Ukraine's military over the coming years. 2 years, okay? Ukrainian intelligence claims to have disabled a Russian support ship off the coast of Novorossiysk on Wednesday. On Friday, a Ukrainian drone swarm attacked an oil port on Russia's Baltic Sea coast. So, everywhere. And I'm not really wanting to talk about Charlie Kirk. We know what happened. Everybody's talking about Charlie Kirk. It seems as though large parts, at times like this, with all these different things that are happening, large parts of the United States would not welcome a steady leader to calm tensions. No. They want blood. And they don't want to avoid a Titanic iceberg. No. They yearn for the ugly orgy of hate, if only for the opportunity to deprive a fellow citizen a life jacket on the way down. Well written. Bravo. And here we go. I think this was the Israel. Disgusting. Look at that. New satellite images show Gaza City neighborhoods have already been destroyed. This is what's happening. That's what they're doing. That's what Israel's doing. Just another place. Wow. Wowie wow.
For about a week now,
Whoops.
Israel has been systematically leveling Gaza City high-rise towers, taking them down one after the other, and sending hundreds of families scrambling with their few belongings. I stood in the dust and debris of one of those towers, filming the attack. Israel issued advanced warning for people to leave the building, but people have died or been injured from shrapnel and flying debris in these attacks. The dust rose high before engulfing everything and everyone around it. The Roya Tower was 12 stories tall. It had a rooftop gym for women that overlooked the sea. Inside were medical clinics, small businesses, and aid organizations, including a Palestinian right group that says Israel's military used the building during raids of the city earlier in the war. The building later became a shelter for displaced people. These attacks are part of Israel's offensive to occupy all of Gaza City, where just under 1 million people reside. Israel says the towers it's hitting are used by Hamas for surveillance and to plot attacks on soldiers. It hasn't provided evidence for this, but put out this video with graphics it says shows how buildings are used by Hamas. Hamas says these are lies and a pretext for pushing people out of the territory. The military is ordering everyone in Gaza City to leave and set up tents in a southern stretch of Gaza City that's 16 square miles in size. Palestinians here say they are exhausted after nearly 2 years of war and displacement. They say there is no guarantee of safety anywhere. So many are staying in Gaza City despite the risks.
So it never ends there. It never ends. They struck a base and a fuel storage site in Sana's population 3.5 million. in Yemen, killing 35 people if Houthi reports are credible. See, that's another thing. We just don't know what's credible. Another IDF, Israeli Defense Force, strike in Qatar failed to kill a top Hamas negotiator at his villa, though 6 others were slain. You'd think everybody in Israel was Hamas. I mean, in Gaza was Hamas. I mean, I'm not saying that they're wonderful at all. I just think it's very sad for the people. It's really horrible for the people. A drone struck an aid boat at port in Tunisia on its way to challenge Israel's blockade of Gaza and deliver humanitarian aid. Yeah, seriously. There's a lot of amazing people in that flotilla. Let me look at this one. I never pulled this one up. The flotilla for Gaza reports a second drone attack on the boat. Second one. So they, let's see, the Global Samud Flotilla, an international aid initiative, was to deliver vital supplies to Gaza, said on Wednesday that one of its boats was attacked by a drone. So this is what Israel's going to do. They're going to attack. They're going to continue to breach international law and terrorize us. All these people want to do, and I think Greta Thunberg is on there, all these people want to do is just help these people. Yeah, I have to put this up. Okay. The threat isn't terrorist attacks. The threat is that they'll outbreed and outvote them. Yeah, same thing here, huh? Same thing here. Really. A shooting in Jerusalem killed 6 people at a bus stop, wounding 12 others. And that, they said, was by a Palestinian, supposedly. Okay. According to a former IDF commander, over 200,000 casualties, dead and wounded combined, have been inflicted upon Gaza since October 7th, representing about 10% of Gaza's total population. None have been spared the after effects of the war, which has left countless buildings destroyed, the entire population displaced more than once, and serious food shortages, which is why the flotilla is going in the first place. Can you imagine? I never thought I'd live to see the day. A wide-ranging general protest in France attempted to block everything after France's prime minister was replaced with a new conservative loyalist seeking to push through unpopular budget cuts amid growing government debt. 800-plus protest actions were reported across the country on the first day of protesting, and Japan, they also saw their prime minister resign. And a new vote will probably select somebody in October. A rally against migrants in London drew 100,000 protesters. Now, I had taken this up. This comes up in it, but the rising threat of anti-government domestic terrorism, and it's not just here, everywhere. A lot of people are just pretty sick of their governments, wouldn't you say? Holy crap. Oh, and listen, I'm reporting on this because Marco Rubio's little law that you cannot talk badly of Israel hasn't gone into effect yet. It's really pathetic that you cannot critique a country that is basically doing a genocide, right? But no, Marco Rubio's saying we're not going to be able to talk about that, and cities that anybody that talks about it, we're going to go after you. It's opposite world. It's crazy world. But in London, 100,000 protesters, anti-migrant London protests, and you know what's going to happen. This is just going to get bigger and bigger as the climate crisis gets worse and worse. A government-mounted airstrike against a couple of schools in Myanmar, killed 18, wounding 20 others. Raids and gunfights between Pakistan's army and Pakistan Taliban fighters left 47 dead on both sides combined. In Cape Town, population 5 million, a series of shootings left 6 people dead in 48 hours. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, oh, this is an interesting one. This dam, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is now fully operational. It has been storing water and generating electricity for over 3 years now, but is now completely active. And Sudan and Egypt are worried about the consequences. The dam is expected to double Ethiopia's total electrical production, but no agreement has been made with states down the Blue Nile as to how much water will be supplied. Water wars, anyone? Meaningful negotiations do not seem forthcoming. So it is likely that Egypt's Aswan Dam will slowly be deprived of the water it needs to generate large quantities of electricity and feed its population of 118 million. And that's what it looks like. That's the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It's the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa when measured by the capacity to generate electricity. I think it's the beginning, though. And then think about the ecological stuff that's happened. Oh my gosh, to build those. According to an NGO report, Islamists in Niger, and that poor country too, the people have no shot ever of having peace, have killed at least 1,600 civilians since March, including 127 executions. An ISIS affiliate group in the Democratic Republic of the Congo claimed responsibility for an attack which killed 100 people. Sudan accused the UAE of paying hundreds of Colombian mercenaries in service of the rebel RSF forces engaged in a war that has left 150,000 dead since April 2023. Lovely. And Cuba's national electrical grid collapsed last Wednesday, the island's fourth total breakdown this year, but severe load shedding already impacts a majority of the country's residents for about 16 hours each day. Cuba. We talked about Che Guevara the other day, and it's just a shame that we have the sanctions we have on that country. They've been so innovative, and they've done so much with so little. They are truly the country that exhibits that you can make it in collapse. Except climate collapse is now happening and coming. Now, China, which traditionally accounts for 25% purchasing of all American-made soy, isn't buying it this year because of tariffs, throwing the soy markets into crisis. I was at a meeting tonight, and our master gardener, who works with a lot of farmers, was saying that they are seeing it. They're just not talking about it. The bigger farmers know it. The smaller farmers know it. They're just not talking about it in a way that will get them looked at. That's what's happening. But they're not going to survive. Even in New York State. I mean, believe it or not. Okay. Now, I wasn't going to read this part, but I should, because I did my show this week. I did that little video from actually when the YouTube channel was down, and I did it, Am I a Doomer? And it's the only time I've used AI, and I asked ChatGPT, and if you saw it, it was only 5 minutes. And then I had Elliot on this week. So the author writes about the doomer professor, Elliot Jacobson, posits that there are 15 types of doomer, along with an example of each. There's the social media doomer, the radical ecologist doomer, the anti-capitalist doomer, ethical pessimist doomer, Gaia hypothesis doomer, civil disobedience doomer, the near-term human extinction doomer, OG doomer, ecological footprint doomer, deep adaptation doomer, know-it-all doomer, post-doom spiritual doomer, and the overshoot ecologist doomer. Of course, the archetypes are not mutually exclusive, and perhaps the list is not fully exhaustive, but it is a solid categorization. What type do you think are missing, and What type do you think you identify with? And it was funny because after I put up my video of Am I a Doomer, a couple of other people did the same thing. And it turns out, well, I'm not really a hardcore doomer. Maybe doomer adjacent. Because I'm a do more person. I mean, I was at a meeting tonight. We're talking about what the next things are to come up in our county. And I'm the person that is going to go to the meeting, the board meeting of the county executives, and inform them and educate them about data centers and water usage and all that, which I'm going to be talking about Thursday on my new place on this space, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So this was interesting. And I really like the way this author goes into different things, doesn't follow any kind of really methodology, I guess. Just as the news is presented. I mean, here we go, right? Where is everybody tonight? My goodness. Don't they want to learn about the world? A study in Nature Climate Change found in the United States added sugar consumption is positively related to temperature, primarily driven by the higher consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages and frozen desserts. They predict a climate-linked increase in daily sugar of about 3 grams by 2095. Okay. In related research, some 44% of diabetic people worldwide are unaware. So I thought this was pretty interesting considering I don't eat sugar, but I had slips this summer and I didn't feel well a lot and I had surgeries and so I had ice cream slips. But every single time I had an ice cream slip, I didn't feel good. Sugar is terrible. It's evil. So I thought we would look at this. And it's interesting. Who thinks of this? The effects of temperature on added sugar consumption. That's wild research. Changes in added sugar consumption adjusted to adult male, and changes in added sugar consumption. So it's really rising. The research is rising. Temperatures increase added sugar intake disproportionately in disadvantaged groups. So people that can't afford to buy the healthier food, they're buying the junk that supposedly MAHA is supposed to get rid of. But try going up against the big corporations, RFK Jr. You're naive and you're ignorant if you think you're going to win. It ain't going to happen. As Sam always says, it ain't going to happen. Food category: sugar-added beverages, frozen desserts, bakery, oil, sugar products. Look at change in added sugar consumption grams per day. And like everything, there's temperature on the bottom in Celsius. And like me and Jennifer always used to say, it goes up, 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 up. And the same thing, the warmer it gets, you can see that the sugar, the actual sugar added beverages go up. Just wild. Really, I mean, I've never would think to do research on this, but it's really interesting, don't you think? I mean, I think it is pretty interesting. The heterogeneous effect of temperature on added sugar consumption. And I'm not going to go through all this, but, well, maybe I will, because if you look at this, you're seeing the change in added sugar consumption in schools and females and males and how it goes up, and especially the ethnicity. You can see different the ethnicities, how much sugar consumption is happening. But just to equate it with rising temperatures is wild. That whole piece of research is probably worth reading. I don't think I have it. Well, let me see what it looks like. No, I didn't pull that up. It's in Nature. Oh, here it is. In Nature Climate, rising temperatures increase added sugar intake disproportionately in disadvantaged groups in the USA. So healthier food would be an answer, wouldn't it? Regulations getting some of the garbage out, but it's not going to happen. And I hate to sound so negative about it because I'd love to see it happen. Yeah, Tommyist, you're saying more and more children are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Mm. Not most, but a lot. Absolutely. All right. So we have now covered sugar and heat in the atmosphere. Western governments, the UK anyway, are facing a crisis of competency, according to recent writing on friction in the British state. Now that's interesting, isn't it? I think it is. A crisis of competency, which I think we definitely have in the United States. Yeah, definitely. According to recent, and it was, but this is the UK, the expertise needed to run a complex system is allegedly at odds with political cultural currents, and members of both groups, the experts and the peasants, don't respect each other enough to work together. That's interesting, huh? Let's see. I don't think I pulled. Oh, I did pull this up. I actually did pull this one up. So that's good. Here we are, the critic. We are facing a crisis of competency. And this is in Britain, but think about it. The anthropologist Joseph Tainter argues that the burdens of complexity broke the Western Roman Empire. Faced with constant military crisis and limited reserves, the heavily taxed Roman Empire resorted to debasing its silver currency to raise funds. So he's going through history about why this is happening. But, going through the Roman Empire, and it's quite interesting. For the last several years, there have been growing concern about the collapse of Western society. A key part of the concern has been the perceived frailty of Western economies. As a result, there has been a widespread, though not universal, acceptance for the need for resilience to be rebuilt in Western economies. Energy independence, supply chain redundancy, and reshoring have all been touted as safeguards to protect from external systemic shocks that Western nations have overexposed themselves to, you think? But the problems are complexity are not just because of globalization, but its internal contradictions within the Western societies. An example would be better than the recent warning from the Royal Economic Society that the Office for National Statistics in the UK is so bad economists can't analyze the British economy properly. So is it because people are stupider? I mean, really, we're going to come into plastic in a little bit. It just was interesting. A crisis of competency. I think that's definitely the administration now. Ugh, make my thumbnail larger. I'm not going to do that. You don't want to see me. All right. Make it just a little larger. What are you, my producer? And I listened. I listened. And do you see I'm dark tonight? Dark and red and blue. I just felt like that. After I read this today, when you read this whole thing, it's overwhelming. And I cry a bit at some of the things that are happening that I read about, especially the wars and the people that are being killed for nothing. For nothing. All right. So, revised job figures in the U.S. from March suggest the number of new jobs is actually 910,000 lower than previously believed. Confidence in getting a new job in the U.S. is at a 12-year low. Yeah, everybody's looking to go to Canada. And Canada just published a video saying they're looking for, I think, 40,000 experts in all kinds of different fields. So if you're young, you're smart, and you're looking, they're looking for you. I'm not young. I'm smart. I'm not looking. So I'm not going. Trump is urging the EU to impose tariffs of 100% on China and India for their purchase of Russian oil. The world, meanwhile, got a new richest person. Imagine that. And it's not because Elon Musk's net worth, 385 billion US dollars, dropped. Nope, it's Larry Ellison, the CEO of tech giant Oracle. Significantly grew his net worth to 393 billion after Oracle stock rose more than 35% in 1 week. I don't know why, but I was a subject matter expert in my career as we did use Oracle. We went from our legacy system to Oracle, and I was the payroll and benefits subject matter expert for our campus, and it was a big job. I mean, this was a long time ago. It was huge, the migration of everything, and we used Oracle. But I don't know why 35% in 1 week. Larry Ellison, just a person. I mean, I do believe that there's no reason to have billionaires. So come and get me. Come and get me. I'm a leftist. Come get me. Okay, my hands are up. A Texas lender for risky car loans is going under, filing for bankruptcy as large numbers of low-income borrowers fail to make payments for their automobiles. Experts blame a sinking economy and deportation efforts which targeted undocumented borrowers, a large portion of the Texas lender's customer base. Regulatory capture is the concept of an agency which is supposed to regulate something like pollution, information, microplastics, drugs, ends up furthering the ambitions of the very industry it's supposed to regulate. A study on this phenomenon, sometimes called corporate capture or agency capture, investigated how and when a sector can become compromised. Like yesterday, like always compromised. The study proposes 7 action points to counter regulatory capture across a range of levels. Is the system too far compromised to make genuine public interest reform impossible? You know, that's a tough one for me because there's a lot of people that are working on just that, to really try to make changes in the system. And we may think it's too late. I won't say that ever. As far as working hard to make change, even if the change lasts for a certain amount of time, people are not going to stop. So a regulatory agency is captured when a regulated entity has substantial influence over policymaking. Other tactics include sowing doubt, disseminating disinformation and misinformation, denial and deflection. We see it all over. Capture can extend to educational establishments, political parties, local and national governments, intergovernmental organizations, and even individuals. Culture, media, and sport outlets have all been captured in recent history by corporate actors that have a vested interest in profits over the public good. We have a need for stronger conflict of interest policies, particularly in relation to intergovernmental science policy panels. Those were selections from the study, and this was the study. Environmental science and technology letters. Looks like another good one. Corporate capture studies impacting human and ecosystem health. So there's health. There's a lot in this one. Of course, I don't have time to read it. A study in Science Direct. Now, this is what I want to talk about a little bit more. We were talking about this tonight in the meeting I went to. And a study in Science Direct looked at microplastic pollution from single-use water bottles. Now, those of us that are old enough to remember when there were none, we'd go to the tap, we'd drink our water, or we would bring a glass bottle if we needed to bring water with us. And those days were good days. And now we're just full of plastic. They looked at microplastic pollution from single-use water bottles and found pollution is worse than expected. The study's authors determined that there was annual ingestion of 39,000 to 52,000 microplastic particles by individuals, with bottled water consumers ingesting up to 90,000 more particles than tap water. This is tap water in a glass bottle, and I am using a plastic straw, which I use over and over. So I'm still getting my diet of nanoplastics, although I do have a metal straw. I should just grab that. That's a lot. They also found that chronic health issues linked to exposure to nano and microplastics, including respiratory diseases, reproductive issues, neurotoxicity, and carcinogenicity. Oh, God. I said this too. Carcinogenicity. Say after me. Carcinogenicity. Health issues tend to affect the gastrointestinal system and can cause inflammation. I believe it. I live it. Metabolic disorders, endocrine disruptions, neurotoxic effects, and more. The full study is quite alarming. This is the study. Unveiling the hidden chronic health risks of nano and microplastics in single-use water bottles. This is big. It's big. It's not that we didn't know it, but it's big. Let's look at the pictures. Let's look at the graphic. Make it bigger. All right, so here's your nano microplastic particles in the one bottle. And water bottles, nanoplastics, microplastics. Earlier, I was reading about the measurements and what the measurements are, and it's not easy to measure this either. And that scientists are out there measuring all these different plastics. They're measuring a lot in the ocean. But then the medical establishment is doing these studies. Human health. So, nanoplastics and microplastics. These are the laboratory methods. Imaging, identification, size determination, because they're different sizes the way they break down. And should there be regulation for water bottles? I think so. I just think they should stop. But the plastic industry is like, plastics, in the graduate, plastics. Human health effect. We heard it. Neurotoxicity, oxidative stress, disruption of immune function, and carcinogenicity. I don't know why I'm having such a problem with it. Respiratory system diseases, intestinal dysbiosis, reproductive. I mean, it's terrible. And yet, we are using it in the medical establishment faster than you can blink, because the medical cannabis industry is all plastic all the time. Everything. Now, this one is showing you the different brands and the particles in the plastics that they use. Nanometers and millimeters. I mean, these measurements are incredibly small. They really are. Nestle and Bisleri and Epure and Aqua, Aquafina, Dasani, Evian, they all have a lot of, a maximum. Okay, I would say Nestle Pure Life has the maximum particles, if you're counting, 10,000 particle counts of nanometers. Wow. Nestle, they're evil anyway, aren't they? Now let's look at this one. All right, so This is how they get in: nanoplastics, microplastics, and macroplastics. I guess that's when you swallow a piece of straw if you're chewing on it. Access to all the organs through cell membranes, and the blood-brain barrier and the placenta. Absorption up to 7% of these little nanometers. Little. They go into the organs, in the veins, in the lymphs. They're in the lymph nodes. Maybe that's why I have swollen lymph nodes from Sjogren's under here. Human hair even. And the drinking straw. The most. Definitely I'm getting rid of this. And getting my metal straw out. Yeah. So figure 3 is the fate of microplastics within the mammalian body. It's contingent upon nano and microplastic particle size. Microplastics larger than 150 nanometers are unlikely to be absorbed, but while smaller particles can enter the lymphatic and circulatory systems, nanoplastics smaller than 100 nanometers can reach all organs, crossing that blood-brain barrier and the placental barrier, and we wonder why we have problems. Is it really just social media? Ingestion. See where it goes? Right through the epithelium. Nanoplastic particles, coronated nanoplastic particles, microplastic particles, even in the cells. And it shows you the cell type, and after 72 hours, how you can see exposure to 1 micron in the exposed cells and the unexposed cells. I don't know if you, oh yeah, you can. Can you see my, yes you can. But it's just wild that it's just everything. Chronic health risks via ingestion is one route through which plastic particles enter the human body. Nanoplastics may interact with proteins, lipids, carbohydrate, nucleic acids, ions, and water in the human body, leading to the formation of coronated nanoplastic particles for absorption. The nanopolyethylene terephthalate particles were analyzed by transmission electron microscopy observations. Cross sections of macrophages in which internal sized nanopolyethylene tetraphthalate particles were detected. Jeez. It's in all of us. It's in all of us. So let's use glass like I do. And I promise I'm going to get rid of my plastic straw. Even the cat food. You buy, I have the kittens, right? You buy the cat food for kittens. And it's in a little metal container, which is great. And then you open it and it's lined with plastic. And I'm looking for things that don't have, that aren't being sent with plastic. And the only thing that I fed them, and this is what the vet said, beech nut baby food chicken. That's it, chicken water for the cats, glass bottles. So I've now collected those glass bottles, and you know what? They'll be great for labeling seeds. But I do feed them kitten food too. But it's just everything. You're not going to get away from it. We're never going to. Another study determined that microplastics pollution in the Gulf of Mexico, America's marine protected areas, was sourced in large part by microplastics in rivers. This result surprised some researchers who thought microplastics may have been introduced in large numbers by wastewater treatment plants. Higher concentrations of these microplastics were found along the coast than farther offshore. So about 20% of the microplastics in the Gulf were buoyant, and the other 80% sunk. So it's sitting at the bottom of the ocean for all of the fish to eat. Yep. And this is a spatial distribution of the settled microplastics in the northern Gulf. You can see the latitude degree, right, where it is, and you can see along these rivers and where they are. These are modeling river and urban related microplastic pollution off the southern United States. It's everywhere. It's so sad. But I really give kudos to the people wanting to clean it up and trying to clean it up and coming up with corporations that do not use plastic. But everything. I was in the hospital twice this year, unfortunately, but that's done and over with. Everything's plastic. Plastic, plastic, plastic. And in medical, it's a hard thing because everything has to be throwaway. But does it? What happened to the autoclaves? You get tattooed, they put the needles in the autoclave. Maybe there are things that could be changed in the medical institution, especially in the medical marijuana business. Man. And this is just showing cities, Mississippi, and in different years. All right, time to move on from microplastics now that we are thoroughly discussed it. Google is simultaneously claiming that the internet is healthy and that the open web is already in rapid decline. The reason? Large-scale, fast-moving trends in online advertising, amplified by AI at all levels, is reshaping incentives for ad makers and rewriting our cognitive processes. Okay? The smart TV Roku is planning to deploy personalized AI slop ads to individual viewers to con them into buying more shit than they don't need with the money they don't have, probably financed by Klarna. You've probably seen that. I had seen it. They have a green logo, Klarna. It's ridiculous. And I have a Roku TV because it was like El Cheapo Deluxe TV. A Nature study into the 2023 Canadian wildfires concluded that about 5,400 acute deaths in North America, approximately 64,300 chronic deaths in North America and Europe, were attributable to the PM2.5 exposure to the 2023 Canadian wildfires, right outside where I was doing my gardening with a mask on. About 75% of those deaths were in the United States. 2023 was the worst year for Canada's wildfires, torching some 42.5 million acres, equivalent to more than 2 Ireland islands. And when I read these things, this is when I get the tears. And I think about the wildlife that gets affected. And I some, of course, of the fire is a natural occurrence. Fires have always happened. But this is just out of control. 2025 is the second worst year for wildfires, burning about 18.5 million acres, almost the size of Hokkaido. As of 3 weeks ago, the study's authors write that the global health impacts of the wildfires we assess to be expected to continue and grow in the future. Isn't that lovely? So now, wherever you live, you must think about fireproofing your surroundings. I talked about that before my channel went down. I talked about how I was getting rid of certain types of brush that were dry around my place, around the perimeter, because I do rewild. And now we are in a drought in New York State. And even though it's in the morning, you get up, it's very dewy, it's very wet, because where I am, I'm lucky that there is a fog bank usually in the mornings. So that does keep everything wet. But have to do it again if we don't get some freaking rain. I am so blessed for the rainwater catchment system I have on the side of my house, because I am starting now to use that to fill up my buckets to bring down to water the things that I have left in the garden, which are the cassava melons, the cabbage, and some tomatoes, and the Brussels sprouts, the fall crops. instead of using the irrigation system because I really don't know about, I would not know how to know how much water I have in my well. And a friend of mine that I saw tonight, by the way, her well went dry. And yeah, she has an older house, and it was probably a very old well, but she had no water for weeks and weeks. And she has to have a new well drilled at a quite a, expense that she wasn't expecting. And earlier in the season, her property, she has over 100 acres. Her property flooded earlier in the season from torrential rains because nothing is as we remember. Torrential rains to drought to having no water in her well. So her well could, the heck is that? Oh my God, did I lose okay, sorry. The well, it wasn't dug deep enough, but she didn't know. And I don't know. If you have a well, do you know how to know if your well is going to run dry? I don't know. Mine is much newer, and I have a pump well on the other side of my property, but it makes you think. And I am doing things here to mitigate my water use. Like I said, I'm going to stop using the drip irrigation, and I'm going to start bringing the water down and watering the garden until these things are done by hand with the water from my rainwater catchment, because that is why I have it. And I'm not flushing. I'm not going to even shower, as much as I don't have to. I don't go anywhere. But I mean, there are measures, and a lot of people really have to be responsible because most of us have wells in this area. And if my neighbors are not being judicious, well, that could affect my water, right? So I think it's incumbent upon me and to talk to my couple of neighbors, the two I have, which I know that they are probably being judicious because both of them are pretty well-rounded people, but it's a farm. There's a lot of farms here, and the farm animals need water. They need water. Okay, so we talked about the fires and the exposure of in 2023, how shitty it was. And those of us on the East Coast, okay, I have to answer this. I have to wait. Poppy said, don't drag buckets of water around. No, I have a cart, and I could put 2 5-gallon empty ones, and I put the one on the back, and I wheel it over the cart, and usually it fits. So I'm doing pretty good. I won't be doing that. I won't hurt myself, I promise. I love you guys. So it was the PM2.5. That's the particulate matter in the air. I have 2 air purifiers in my house because I have the wood stove. Canada, you see, Canada, the western eastern fires, and anthropogenic. Look at them. This is the daily amount of, I'm just going to tell you the amount of crap you inhaled from which fires. So it just went up, and all these, and there were a lot of different fires. All right. Now let's move on to Ebola. Following reports of a new Ebola crisis in the DRC 2 weeks ago, cases have now more than doubled in 1 week. Confirmed cases of Ebola in the country stand at 68, located in a south-central region of the country. That's a scary one. There won't be a vaccine made in the United States for Ebola. Malnutrition rates in Madagascar's children are estimated to rise more than 50% before the end of the year, mostly as a result of the 5-year drought there. The Grand South region of Madagascar is suffering the cumulative effects of multiple hazards, including droughts, flooding, and locust infestation, said one aid worker. Not very pleasant. Now, this one really pissed me off. Peru's government voted against creating a large nature reserve, a little larger than the island of Jamaica. I mean, this was one I cried because I got tears in my eyes. As a result, possible resource extraction, namely logging plus oil and gas exploration, may be allowed to move forward, and reportedly uncontacted tribespeople deep in the jungle may be introduced into the chaos of modern life. You just want to go over there and you want to just shake these people and slap them, wake them up and say, this is ridiculous. They're going to destroy their country and they're going to destroy these tribes people's lives now because they cannot have a nature reserve. And think of the animals. I mean, of course doomers exist. Look what we're reading, and this is real. So, who's in Peru? I didn't look it up. I didn't have time. Who's in Peru fighting back? You know there's an NGO fighting back. Maybe it is not finished. Maybe their government might have voted against creating it. There could be something happening. Maybe one of you want to follow up. That would be cool. It's just sad because everything's the almighty dollar and they're just going to destroy it. Logging, oil and gas exploration, all extraction. All right. A 64-page report estimates that natural disasters will cost Australia approximately 73 billion Australian dollars, presumably per year by 2060. But I think it might be a typo. Flooding, brush fires, and storms top the list of the most expensive natural disasters. So, just put it this way. Australia's in trouble. The Euphrates River is at record low levels, forcing unsustainable water releases from upstream dams in Iraq. Algae are reporting spreading across the river, and water-hungry hyacinths consume too much of the river's limited water. You know, I just read that the Hudson River in New York is having algae blooms that are awful for the first time in maybe more than 20 years. Really bad. What happened down there? It was very hot. New York by the Hudson River was hot in the 90s Fahrenheit for days and days and days. It affects the water temperature, and then the algae grows. In Syria, the worst drought in about 40 years is resulting in about 1 million tons loss, less than average of the annual wheat harvest. That's lovely for Syrians, but they're still fighting and warring over there. In the United States, the almost non-existent EPA is stopping tracking greenhouse gas emissions. Isn't that lovely? At a wide range of industrial sites, including coal plants, oil refineries, and more, account for about 8,000 locations across the country. So, why? Because you don't believe in climate change, or you're bowing to pressure from the fossil fuel industry who says, hey, if we don't know, it won't hurt us. It's absurd. It's counterintuitive. I hate Lee Zeldin. I cannot stand that guy. I think he is the biggest ass-licking toady on the planet. No, there's so many of them. How can I say he's the biggest? That whole administration are ass-licking toadies. A Nature study examining 213 heat waves from 2000 to 2019 found that about 25% were virtually impossible without climate change, and that carbon majors, oil, gas, coal, cement corporations, contribute to half the increase in heat wave intensity since 1850 to 1900 because of their emissions. With reference to 1850 to 1900, climate change has increased the median intensity of heat waves by 1.36 C over 2000 to 2009. Over 2010 to 19, the influence of climate change increased to 1.68 C. So, for every reported heat wave, the contribution of climate change to the event is assessed using statistical models and multiple lines of evidence. The number of heat waves reported per country over 2000 to 23 years, basically. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. And through the emissions, every carbon major contributes to climate change and thus to heat waves, even relatively smaller climate majors. And so you can see that's why New York City area was hotter than hot, and the Hudson River is hotter than hot, and algae is going to grow, and we are just going to keep contributing to it until we don't. It won't be with this administration. 1 year ago, U.S. emissions were predicted to reduce by about 48% by 2035. Since the Trump administration has reversed course on a number of climate policies and accelerated fossil fuel consumption, experts now believe emissions will now drop by about 31% over the next 10 years. The drop is largely due to the inevitable phase out of coal, shifts to natural gas, and the growth of the new renewable energy industry. Well, what do you think? You think it will? Let's look at this. Where did he get this from? This was from phys.org. Study warns U.S. emissions progress may flatline. Okay, well, it's like nothing that we didn't know. They're ruining the EPA. They're destroying everything that was good about the United States. Okay. Some scientists are criticizing various geoengineering proposals that have been pitched to reduce ice melt in the Arctic and Antarctic. Now, this could be a whole show. The experts consulted believe that many of these projects, like the sea curtain, atmospheric aerosol injection, glass beads, are not feasible because of technological constraints, logistics, cost, potential environmental damage, and the inability to build them at a large scale. The full study details many of the specific challenges inherent in each of these possible geoengineering projects. If interesting, you can join a webinar on the 24th of September to ask them about geoengineering possibilities. So if you're interested, that's pretty good. I think that's great that you could join that webinar. And listen, there's going to always be people that are looking for these things, these solutions, or these ways to get around what's happening. You can't stop it. You want it to happen, though. Well, I do. I'm interested to see what these people come up with because it's challenging. It's intellectually challenging. Now, let's look at, where is that? I want to look at the actual article on that one. Okay, this was the Times. Scientists warn polar ice fixing plans are flawed and dangerous. This is Greenland. And it is the Ilusat Ice Fjord in Greenland. It's the largest glacier outside of Antarctica, and it's retreating at unprecedented speeds due to climate change. And yes. So plans to stop this ice melting in the world's polar regions will not work and could even backfire with harmful environmental impacts, says a group of scientists. Several eye-catching ideas have been proposed for geoengineering the Arctic and Antarctic to undo or slow the dramatic shifts they are experiencing as they warm much faster than the rest of the world due to climate change. And that is the MIR project, one of them. But the MIR project is the mirrors. We've talked about that on this show. And I've always wanted to interview the principal investigator on that. And all of a sudden, I can't remember his name. If you remember his name, put it in the chat. Highlighting Rod, Lone Wanderer. Uh, all right. So the government is spending, wow, who, which government? Let's see. Irish. Is this the Irish Times? Huh. Wow. Okay. They want to spend a lot of money, and they're going to say how they're going to spend it on investigating. Can they slow it? University, it's UK, of Cambridge will explore whether the Arctic's rapidly diminishing sea ice could be artificially thickened, with field trials set to begin in Canada this year. And if you remember the show from the other night, what Elliot said was that it's Antarctic. That is really the one that came out of left field. That's pretty scary. They're going to geoengineer this, huh? So I wanted to look at, there's all these different companies. All right, let's see here. This here, the SAI research will involve launching specially adapted weather balloons from sites in the USA or the UK. They will carry samples of natural dust, such as powdered limestone, into the stratosphere for exposure periods ranging from hours to weeks. The dust will then be brought back to Earth to be analyzed. Studying the recovered samples will reveal how stratospheric conditions affect their properties over time. This foundational science is essential to advance the understanding of the potential impacts of SAI and for determining if less harmful alternatives to sulfates might exist. So that's just one. And SAI must be, that's the company, right? And then there's area. Oh, as area is the company. Stratospheric aerosol injection. Yeah. So it's happening. The science is out there. It's happening. You never know. We don't know. So let's see what this looked like. And here's one. Oh, this is the glass beads. They could have a net warming effect on Arctic sea ice by absorbing solar radiation and darkening surfaces with high albedo, thereby accelerating sea loss. So, I don't understand this one. Bead dissolution. I didn't have enough time. Oh, refractive glass beads. Okay. But see, whatever they're going to do, it's look at this, to be toxic to marine organisms. And that's the problem. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. All right, here we go. We're moving on. About 40% of Israel's reptile species are at risk of extinction, according to recently concluded research on biodiversity in the region. I wonder why. Locations in South Africa, and all of a sudden I can't breathe, set a new September record for heat. Flooding in Zhejiang, population 13 million, forced the closure of schools across the central Chinese city. They're flooding in China and we're drowning. Record heats in Norway and Sweden broke old September records. Floods around Bali killed 19. Alaska's rivers are turning orange again. Jennifer and I went over this years ago, from the permafrost thawing, resulting in exposure of sulfide rocks, resulting in increased oxygenation and acidification. The process is irreversible and deadly to many aquatic life forms. Read the PNAS study. It's right here. Listen. Subscribe to this. Subscribe to Last Week in Collapse. Everything's there. I mean, it really is the work that's involved in pulling this all together is quite a lot. And it's a big show, and I can't imagine doing it every single week. But look at what it looks like. This is awful. And this is probably something to talk about with Jim Massa. Absolutely. You see, Look at that color. Oh. So some aerosols like black carbon absorb sunlight heat and therefore warm the atmosphere. Other aerosols like sulfates reflect sunlight and thus produce a cooling effect on the atmosphere. They can also increase cloud formation, which sends light back because low white clouds reflect sunlight. Scientists are worried about termination shock, which that's been talked about a lot lately, which is a phenomenon where the rapid removal of cooling aerosols for the purposes of improving breathing air quality, stopping acid rain, etc., like taking the fuel, changing the fuel in the ships. Leon Simmons talks about it, and so did Jim Hansen, and so did Guy McPherson, as a matter of fact. The aerosol masking effect. So it could result in sudden heating and unintended consequences for a variety of ecosystems on Earth. So some call this reverse geoengineering and say it's been going on for 20 years as China moved to reduce their sulfate aerosols and changes in shipping emissions gradually cut the sulfur dioxide emissions over the seas. See, it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. As human habitats expand with more and more development, other animals and plants are experiencing greater habitat fragmentation. Who would have thought of that? A paywalled study in Science found that more than half of global forests have become more fragmented over the last 2 decades because of forest degradation, harvests, and particularly in tropical areas. So there's another mess. This one, actually, though, I see it here. I see that here. Species A and species B share a habitat. They both depend on species C for survival. And so since habitat fragmentation decreases population size, a smaller environment leads to an increase in all involved species susceptibility to disease and decreased adaptability to their habitat. This can result in higher death rates and less population growth, and it happens everywhere. Natural or anthropogenic events cause a divide in the habitat. Floods, roads, rural development. Right? Species A is unable to survive because it's separated from species C. So species A dives off, decreases, and there you decrease the biodiversity. No, probably no one in the Trump administration would even understand this. But it's happening everywhere. And I think we've gotten through the whole last week in Collapse. I had a few other articles. This was the farmer. This just was from the publication. The farmer, they're in a very, very dire situation because nobody's buying soybeans. And we are facing, I already did that one. And then this was quantitative assessment on distribution of patterns of microplastics in global inland waters. So we had seen in the earlier graphs, we saw all of the coastline waters. But this article, which I'm not reading, contamination inland waters. This is newer. So we've got it everywhere. It is everywhere. I'm not ready to play the music. Comments, thoughts from the peanut gallery, super chats, help me pay my taxes. Support my channel, support the kittens, which are going in 2 weeks. All right, guys, let's see what comments are out there. There is a lot going on in the world. I was particularly taken by what's happening in Nepal and by the plastics. Those were the two that really stuck out to me, but there's just so many, so many. And this author really, really does a great job, I think. And even sticking in the doomer piece right in the middle of this whole last week in Collapse was pretty good, considering that was my topic this week and Elliot's wrote about it. So it was really interesting. All right, guys, where are you? Yeah, we're damned, but you see, we can say it, but we don't give up. There's always something to do, like I did tonight, going to the meeting, making our plans, going to talk and educate about what can happen in our community. Yeah, baby. Lone Wanderer, whoosh. Good read, Sandy, this week in Collapse. Woohoo! Yeah, well, I just can't read it, though. I have to opinionate because I can't help myself. But it's my show. I'm not influencing you. I'm just being snarky through most of this because it's a way to cope. It's a defense mechanism. Snark. All right, we need a flush of the day. Anybody want to pick the flush of the day here? Come on, guys. What are we going to flush? I'll wait. I'm not picking the flush today. You just heard from so many different things we could flush. So come up with it. Yeah, but I didn't talk about that tonight, Looney. Flush something that was in the show. That is okay. That was in the show. Definitely this guy. Oh my God. This guy. The person that had to run, just like our country, they run for Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump run for election so they can stay out of jail. Oops, where's the flush? Ah, here it is. Yay, goodbye. Bye-bye. God damn. All right. Flush Charlie? Flush Charlie? Who's Charlie? Flush Charlie. Oh, Charlie. I'm not flushing Charlie. Charlie's already flushed. I'm not adding insult to injury on that one. I'm not. I think it was really horrible what happened. And I'm sorry, but people might, I know he was a terrible person, but I'm not going to celebrate political violence. Melissa Hortman and her husband and the dog and the neighbors, the other people. I mean, I'm not celebrating any political violence, even if it's somebody that we can't stand. Alex, war profiteering is really unattractive. It is. And that's what's happening. And a lot of American weapons will end up in all those African countries and the Middle East countries that are fighting. A lot of them will. Because that's something that no matter how much people can't stand this administration, they like the weapons that we sell. They definitely do. Yeah, that's right. We will not celebrate political violence. I don't want to. It's not anything to celebrate. And it's actually making things worse because now what's happening with this is that this administration is using this political violent act to probably erode our civil rights. And because of this one thing, because of this one dysfunctional, messed up Utah Mormon 22-year-old kid, gave these people an opportunity, a wide open opportunity now to lie and obfuscate everything, and we will lose. And I've been saying this for a long time. That I was, giving it 6 months when I had lost my YouTube channel, but I don't know. I mean, we've got 3 more years of this. Remember, little Marco is putting in legislation that you cannot criticize Israel. I mean, these people, the free speech warriors, the biggest hypocrites on the planet, I'd like to have a vigil for getting along. Well, yeah, it would be nice to get along because basically the people that we're fighting with are really brainwashed and bamboozled to hate because they listen to right-wing hate podcasts and right-wing hate spewing people. And we don't typically do that on the left. We don't. Not like that. And they get changed when it really should be the oligarchy and us down here all together, because we're all being screwed by the elites that the Nepalese kids are fighting against. Nepal is like a microcosm of the world. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Right? Yeah. Hi, Snicks. No, Sandy, the internet is not buying their deflection to the left. I don't know the latest. I'm giving you my, no, probably not. Not everybody that has a brain, but remember, everybody is, everybody's influenced by someone. Even if you're here with me and I say don't be influenced by me and just let me do my thing and tell you things and tell you stories and make you videos and all that. Okay, she did it. It's coming up. Thank you, Nadia. Social collapse is observable from the right wing getting its license to Holocaust trans people and declare the DNC terrorists. Plus, Musk is cooping the UK. Yes, you're absolutely 100%. Thank you. You're right on that. I know that because he's over there. Why are these billionaires doing this? Because they can. They are trying to influence countries' political processes, and it looks like it's working. How are people falling for this? Oh, maybe a lot of people feel like, you know what? Maybe it's easier if we just let them run everything and tell us what to do. We just live our little lives. I don't know. Thank you. Yeah, it is just too much. That's why I can't do this show every week, because it's overwhelming. And the guy that writes this, I just give him kudos. I mean, he gets the gong. Yeah! He gets the gong hit. All right, an hour and a half. I have something I want to show you. Yeah, there you go. That's what I say. Yep. I want to show you something. Okay, so tomorrow I'm on Left Past 10 with Andrea and Jake and Matt. And I want to show you the one picture. This is my new show on this space. I will be on the network, but I'll probably simulcast it on Environmental Coffee House. Y'all knew I wanted to do some kind of political thing, right? So Matt made this for me, and I am going to do a show every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And Matt made this political coffee house, and I will be on this space, and I will put the I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to I left the sound effect too loud. But anyway, so I'm going to do that. And my first show on Thursday is, so like I said, I'll be simulcasting everybody, all the chat, whoever shows up, best behavior, just like I like it. And I'll be part of it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. This space streams tons of different lefty podcasters. And I was supposed to be one of the first ones, and then YouTube did what they did to me. So my political coffee house, though, it's probably going to be political, but analyzing the people that are making environmental and health decisions and things like that. Like I wanted to do the Inside the EPA show, but I can't afford the newsletter, the industry paper I really want. I can't afford it. Even with the payments, I can't. So, yeah, let's put this up. Subscribe to this space, YouTube, this space. but I'm not going to leave it up for long. But it's cool. There's so many different creators on there. And if you don't like somebody, don't listen. But it's round the clock programming. Some of it is syndicated. Boston Brian, I'm on there. There's a lot. Sandy Lovis, Left of the Box, Matt the Letter Hack. But there's people you've never heard of. There's people I've never heard of, and some really interesting people. Yep. So I'm excited to do this. It's something different in my life, and I think it's something needed, and it by listening to all these podcasters, it really proves the point that we are not domestic terrorists. We are not violent. We are lovers, not haters. We just want health care. We want health care for people. We just want a good life. Not to be servants of a monarchy. So basically that's it. That is my political coffee house, and that's what Matt did. So that's Thursday. So I'll see you tomorrow night. Antonio Reed is back with me Saturday. We're switching Saturdays because he had a birthday party. So, that will be a good show. We will do current events because with his history knowledge and the current events, oh boy. So you don't want to miss Saturday night at 9 if you have no life and you're not going out partying. Yeah, we want our kids to be safe. That's another good one. Of course. It's just not, we're not hate. We don't have hate in our hearts. I only hate one person, and you know who it is. I don't know why. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. And one town, they wanted the flags at half mast. And there's a town in New Jersey that said, I'm not doing that for this guy. He was a podcaster, right? And even the orange turd himself, he didn't even go to this thing. He went golfing. There was some vigil for Charlie, and he didn't go. He went golfing. They're using this to their advantage. The conspiracy theory was that it was set up, blah, blah, blah. Of course, there's a conspiracy theory. I just think that the guy that did it was emotional, did it from his it was impulsive. It was impulsive, and of course it was a terrible thing to do. Impulsive. And now it is given license to this administration to really try to clamp on our civil liberties. And we won't be able to do our little 50501 protests because municipalities are going to be told that, nope, you're not giving out permits. Anyway. Before leaving, please hit like, share, subscribe, and become a member. Yes. And Left Past 10 tomorrow night. Yep. You give kids a mission so I can talk to their moms. And I know what you talk about. You talk about the climate crisis. Yeah, exactly. The vice president did the same thing. I listened to him today. He was chilling. But you know why he's doing this? Because if the orange turd passes away, he becomes the president, and then he's got all of those other people behind him that are not even from the United States originally, but just don't want the United States to be a democracy. And people will eat it up. Eat it up because they want their guns and their guts and their glory. Oh yeah. No one has anything about civil liberties as an explicit goal. It's all about what they're really doing to violate civil liberties in the process of doing. Well, isn't that kind of the same thing? Civil rights, Goodbye. Not just moms. I take people's cars, lock them in, and lie to them about the climate. I think you're a big-hearted person. Everybody here in this chat is. Well, we have front row seats. Put on your seatbelt. We're all together. And as long as YouTube doesn't kick me off, I'm not leaving. I'll go back to Twitch. And I am going to be on this space. And I really didn't think that this show was offensive. But there are people that probably thought so. Anyway. All right. Love you guys. I am going to say goodnight. This is a long show, but I wanted to do it. You know, I hadn't done it in a long time, and it was definitely interesting. And as I read it the second time, no, actually the third time, because I had to go back and read things. Holy shit. I really learned. I know. I'm getting sick in the front row. Yep. Love me again. You didn't follow me to Twitch. It's okay. Love you all too. All right. Good night, guys. Good night.